Okay, we're ready on the case of State of Florida versus Irwin Rockwell. Mr. Rockwell is in the courtroom, as are his attorneys and the state. And it's afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, Your Honor.
My understanding is that the defendant is interested in resolving this matter today. Mr. Reef, is that right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
For the record, Robert Reif, David Kapulian, on behalf of Irwin Rockwell.
Okay, state.
Good afternoon, Judge. Laura Adams on behalf of the state of Florida. Judge, we have reached a negotiated settlement in this case. Before I pass up the signed written plea agreement and the order ratifying the terms, if Your Honor would give me a couple of moments to explain to the court how we got here and with whom I have had discussions about resolving this case. Prior to finalizing the terms of this agreement, I had extensive discussions with Jessica Rivera. She is the wife of Wellington Rivera, who was killed in this horrible crash. I've also spoken with her attorney, Mr. Tom Scalero. Judge, the love Ms. Rivera had for her husband was evident in all of our conversations, and her loss is unimaginable. She's here with us on Zoom. In addition, Judge, I've discussed this matter with Ed Williams Gonzalez, who's here in court today. He was severely injured in this crash. I've also had conversations with his significant other, Yvonne Suchet, who's sitting next to him. I've also spoken with their attorney, Mr. Mike Haggard, who may be representing Mr. Gonzalez. Judge, if I can add, speaking with Mr. Gonzalez, it's been really moving because by all accounts, he shouldn't be here. It is a miracle that this man survived that crash. And I am really in awe of the strength and perseverance that he and his family have shown in recovering from this horrible crash. I've also had discussions with Corporal Christine Gracie, who's here with us today, at the end. She was the lead investigator tasked with the horrible aftermath of this crash and oversaw its investigation and truly did an amazing job, which I think is why we're all here today and why the defense is willing to not contest this case, but to go ahead and resolve it. Also, Judge, many other members of the Florida Highway Patrol who were a part of this crash investigation and who have the thankless job of responding to one crash after another, they seem to be coming more and more frequently, and they are becoming more and more horrific as we have these cars on the road that just seem unconcerned with speed limits, traffic control devices, etc. Judge, also here today is Sergeant David Price, who is a supervisor over the Miami Beach Traffic Homicide Unit. And the reason why he's here is because, ironically, before he became a supervisor, when he was a patrol officer, he is a person who had arrested this defendant previously for a DUI for which the defendant ultimately was convicted. All of these individuals, Judge, that I have consulted with are in agreement with this plea offer. It is not so much intended to show mercy for the defendant, quite candidly. He is a man who has been convicted 3 times before for DUI offenses. And his driving pattern on I-95 the morning of August 24th, 2021 is one of the worst I've ever encountered in over 20 years of handling traffic homicide cases. But this plea offer is made primarily in recognition of the defendant's willingness to accept responsibility and to admit his culpability in this. And also for his willingness to waive his right to go to trial, to contest the evidence. And by doing so, not increasing the amount of suffering that the victims and their family members have already gone through. Because we all know, especially in the aftermath of this pandemic, how hard it is for everyone, both on the defense side and the state side, to wait for their day in court. And so in recognition of the defendant's willingness to step up, if you will, that's why the state is making this plea offer, and with true appreciation for the defendant and his attorneys and the work that they've all done. Judge, this is the written plea agreement, which I'm passing up to the court. It has been signed by his attorneys and by myself. There's also an order ratifying the plea agreement, if Your Honor is in agreement to accept it. Essentially, Judge, it calls for the defendant to spend 17 years in state prison with all the credit that he has from the time that he was arrested, to be followed by 10 years of reporting probation. I imagine Your Honor will go through the plea agreement with Mr. Rockwell in detail to ensure that his decision to accept this plea offer is completely voluntary and that he understands all the terms and conditions which are being imposed upon him. If I could ask of your honor that the court would first go through the plea colloquy with Mr. Rockwell, and then at the conclusion of that colloquy, there are a number of people here who would like to make statements. Judge, I also want to recognize a couple of other people that are here. Mr. Gonzalez's family members, his two sons, Alan and Adam, are here. His daughter, Arland, is here. Also, his stepson, Caden, is here. Also, Judge, we have on behalf of Wellington Rivera's family, his mother, Ramona, is here, as are his brothers, Wesley and Wellington. Judge, also an individual who technically is not a victim, but who was truly victimized from this, is a gentleman by the name of Scotty Rogers, who's seated next to Ms. Matson from Mothers Against Drunk Driving as a victim advocate. Mr. Matson is a good Samaritan.
Mr.
Excuse me,
Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, excuse me, Judge.
I got
Mr.
it.
Rogers is here today. He was a good Samaritan who saw this horrific crash and who literally helped pull Ed out of the car and helped save his life. And the emotional toll that this has all taken on him too, I think needs some recognition. Whenever the court is ready to engage in the plea colloquy, the only other thing that I would ask is this: because the arrest affidavits came not piecemeal, but one after the other, initially for the vehicular homicide and then including the DUI manslaughter charges once we got the toxicology results, I would ask if Your Honor would allow the state to lay the factual basis proffer for the court rather than merely finding it from the arrest affidavits.
Of course.
And I'll do that whenever the court is ready. Thank you very much, Judge, for that time.
Juan, can I have the arrest affidavit and the information, please? Oh, thank you.
Oh, Judge, also, I should advise the court in terms of the sentencing guidelines. The state has agreed to null cross a couple of the counts that were in the original information, but the defendant's guidelines, as he is currently charged, are going to be 17.58, which is the bottom of the guidelines. So the defendant is essentially being sentenced within the guidelines for the charges for which he's pleading guilty. Then he's got the 35, 45, 50 years total exposure in light of the 2 second-degree felonies and the 3 third-degree felonies to which he's pleading guilty.
Okay, and the charges that at the end, the state is going to be null crossing?
Yes, Judge. They're going to be counts. One moment, please. Counts 3 and count 6 are going to be null crossed by the state.
State, do you want to give your factual recitation now before I start the plea or during the plea colloquy?
Whatever your honor prefers.
I think it would be easiest if you give us a recitation now of the facts that had the state gone to trial, they would have intended to prove.
Yes, Judge. Had the state proceeded to trial in this matter, the state would have proven the following beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. At approximately 5:37 a.m. on August 24th, 2021, the defendant was driving a Chevy Equinox northbound on I-95 in the general purpose lanes. He was approaching Northwest 183rd Street in Miami-Dade County, Florida. He was then observed by witnesses, to include Mr. Rogers, who's here with us today, to stop his vehicle, make a U-turn, and then proceed to go southbound in the northbound HOV lane. He continued driving the wrong way on I-95, going up onto the flyover, also known as part of the Golden Glades interchange. At that time, Mr. Wellington Rivera and his coworker, Ed Gonzalez, were in a Subaru Outback, and they were on their way to complete work for their job. A head-on collision between Mr. Rivera's and the defendant's vehicle took place on the flyover. There was nowhere for Mr. Rivera to escape the car. His car went over the safety walls of the flyover and landed some 83 feet below, upside down. When 85 feet, when the car fell, Mr. Rogers and another individual who was working as a road ranger saw what happened, went over to the vehicle and were able to pull Ed out of the passenger seat. He was extremely badly injured, but he was conscious. He had multiple fractures to his body and other injuries so severe, it was uncertain at that time if he would survive. He has been hospitalized for literally months over the course of his recovery due to injuries sustained in the crash. I'm sure he'll explain to you those injuries are ongoing even today. Unfortunately, while Mr. Gonzalez miraculously survived this crash, Mr. Rivera did not survive the injuries he sustained. The medical examiner ruled the cause of his death as due to the vehicular crash injuries. Fortunately, Your Honor, the autopsy did not indicate that there was soot in Mr. Rivera's lungs, meaning that he apparently did not perish as a result of the flames, which then engulfed his vehicle. Officers who encountered the defendant and his vehicle, which was still up on the flyover, noticed he appeared to be under the influence of alcohol to the extent his normal faculties were impaired. They were able to obtain blood samples that had been drawn at the hospital. Toxicology results showed that the defendant's blood alcohol level was a 0.12 for blood drawn at about 9:05 a.m., some 3.5 hours after the crash. I should point out, Judge, that a number of the personnel from the toxicology lab are here today to see the end result of what they labor so hard to do at the laboratory. Officers at the crash scene noticed that the defendant's vehicle had a distinct odor of marijuana and there was an empty bottle of beer on the driver's seat. I should note, Judge, that at the time of this crash, the defendant's driving privilege had been revoked due to his prior DUI convictions. Specifically, this defendant was convicted for DUI on cases from September 21st, 2005, October 15th, 2013, and also December 13th, 2013. Those are the facts that the state would prove had this matter gone to trial. And I believe they sustained the charges of manslaughter, DUI causing serious bodily injury, reckless driving causing serious bodily injury, and DUI with a fourth or subsequent offense. They also would have sustained charges of driving with a revoked license causing death and driving with a revoked license causing serious injury. But in furtherance of plea negotiations, the state is null prosing those driving with revoked license charges.
Okay, Mr. Rockwell, if you could please stand. Please raise your right hand to be sworn. Please tell me your name for the record. Mr. Rockwell, it's my understanding that you would like to plead guilty to the charges in this case, and I'm going to go through them individually with you as follows. Count one of this case that you'd be pleading guilty to is a second-degree felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison, which is manslaughter. Count two is DUI manslaughter, a second-degree felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison. Count four is DUI, serious bodily injury, a third-degree felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Count five is reckless driving with serious bodily injury, a third-degree felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Count seven is DUI, fourth DUI or subsequent offense, a third-degree felony punishable by up to 5 years in state prison. Are those the charges in this case that you would be pleading guilty to? Upon your acceptance of this agreement, the state would be null prosing, which in essence for your purposes means dropping counts 3 and count 6 of the information, which is why I didn't read them to you. In exchange for your plea of guilty to each of those offenses, I'm going to go through what my understanding is that you're willing to accept as the penalty. On count 2, the DUI manslaughter, you would be sentenced to 15 years in state prison with a 4-year minimum mandatory sentence, which means that those 4 years would be served day for day before you get any gain time. Is that your understanding? Count 4 for the DUI serious bodily injury, you would be being sentenced to an adjudication and 2 years in state prison to run consecutively to the 15-year sentence imposed on count 2 of the information, and to be followed by 3 years of reporting probation. So in essence, that's after the 15 years for a total there of 17 in state prison, followed by 3 years of probation. Is that your understanding? Count 1 is manslaughter. You'd be receiving an adjudication and 10 years of reporting probation to be imposed consecutively to the prison terms imposed in counts 2 and 4 of the information, and to run concurrently with count 4. So you would have a total of 10, but that would be after the 17 years that would be imposed. Is that your understanding? Counts 5 and 7, you would receive an adjudication for reckless driving, serious bodily injury, as well as an adjudication for the 4th or subsequent DUI offense, and be sentenced to 5 years of reporting probation to run consecutively to the prison terms imposed in counts 2 and 4, but concurrently with the probation terms imposed in counts 1 and 4 of the information. Is that your understanding? So in total, when all of them put together or added, the agreement that you're entering into is that in exchange for your plea of guilty to these offenses, your sentence would be a total of 17 years of prison to be followed by 10 years of reporting probation. Is that correct? Are you right now under the influence of drugs or alcohol? Have you had an opportunity to discuss the facts of your case, your defenses, and this plea agreement with your lawyers? Are you satisfied with their services? So I have before me a plea agreement, which has a section on the bottom left-hand corner of each of the pages, and it's a total of 5 pages long. And there's a section that says defendant's initials, and it has IR on the bottom left of each page. Did you place your initials there? Did you do so after having reviewed the entirety of each of the pages with the assistance of your lawyers? On the last page, which is page 5, there is a line which reads, the prosecutor's name, Ms. Adams, a line that reads your 2 attorneys, Mr. Reif and Mr. Kabilian, and a line that says Irwin Rockwell, and there's a signature. Did you place your signature on that line? And did you do so after reviewing the entire document and asking any questions you might have of your attorneys at that point? Is there anything in this document that you do not understand? All right. Do you understand that by entering into this agreement, you are giving up the right to a trial by jury, the right to your attorney's representation at that trial, and the right to an appeal? Do you understand if you are not a US citizen, you will be facing deportation? State and defense, do you stipulate to a factual basis for purposes of plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
All right, based upon my review of the arrest form, the information, the stipulation, and the factual recitation provided by the court today in court, I do find that the defendant is knowingly and intelligently entering into this agreement with the assistance of competent counsel, and I ratify the previously stated agreement. I'll do so by signing the ratification form that was provided to the agreement by the state.
Judge, if I may ask of Your Honor, just in an abundance of caution, would Your Honor be willing to engage in a further discussion with the defendant regarding the requirements under paragraph 6 of his required conditions of the reporting probation, and also in particular regarding paragraph number 10, regarding the fact that there will be no further investigation, that no depositions have been done, etc.
Sure.
Thank you.
So as part of the agreement, and originally I didn't go through it because it's all contained here and you've indicated you've read it, understood it, and signed it. I'm going to go through some of the terms just so that everyone's aware and has the benefit of knowing, if they haven't seen the document, some of the things that you've been required to do. So as part of the special conditions of your probation, what you've agreed to comply with is that you'll enter and successfully complete a substance abuse course conducted by the DUI program. You will not drive or operate or be in actual physical control of a motor vehicle or vessel at any time whatsoever, even if you ever are able to get a hardship license. This agreement will indicate that you don't have the ability to do that. The defendant will complete 300 community service hours at a rate of no less than 5 hours per month. You'll have one session of the Victim Impact Panel, which is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving within 90 days of release from prison. You're going to be eligible to travel between Miami-Dade and Collier counties with leave of the court.
Judge, I indicated without leave of court.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
not asking him to request court permission
Okay.
each time.
So he can go through to Collier County without leave of court. Any other county that he needs to leave to, he would need leave of court. Is that accurate?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And he'll be able to transfer his probation to Collier County. So in this case, depositions haven't been taken. All reports that are in existence as of now have been provided to your lawyers, but they have not gotten full discovery in the event that this were to go to trial in some years in the future. So for example, your attorneys would have had the right to depose witnesses if they chose to do so. But in an effort to resolve this case in the most beneficial manner to you and to assist the state in resolving the matter without deposing the victims in the case and witnesses, those depositions have not been taken. Are you in agreement with closing the case without having your attorneys take those depositions? All right, is there any witness or any other information that you've provided to your attorneys that you would like them to disclose to the state or to the court that they've not done so already? Okay, so as I indicated, I ratify the previously stated agreement. And I will allow the victims, if they wish, and family members to make a next of kin statement as well as a victim statement. And then Mr. Rockwell, if you choose afterwards to make a statement, you'll be more than welcome to do so, okay? You don't have to, but
Judge, I would just ask if you would give him permission to move his mask, because we're standing over here, so everybody can hear. That's it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Got it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Judge, although she's not a victim in this case, she was the lead investigator, and she wants just to make a very brief statement on behalf of herself as the investigator and her department.
Good afternoon, Corporal. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Your Honor, I just want to say that we had a lot of people that worked on this case, a lot of hardworking corporals, troopers, and everybody's here, as we said. The one thing that we would hope and pray is that Mr. Rockwell gets the help that he needs and maybe goes through a program or something like that, because he's not a bad guy. I mean, I've spoken with him at length, and I'm sure his family loves him, but you do need to get help. And we would hope and pray that you get that help that you need. And I also want to apologize to the victims. I'm so sorry that we had to work this case, and I'm so sorry for the loss of your brother and your son. And I'm so sorry to you, Ed. And it's not the end. I'll stand by you. I'll help you with anything you need, and I'm a phone call away. Thank you.
Thank you, Corporal.
Judge, next is Ms. Ramona. One moment. Ramona Rivera.
Thank you.
She is Wellington's mother, and you need these that you're speaking to.
Good afternoon, Ms. Rivera. If you'd like to remove your mask, you can. You're not required to. I keep mine on because I think it makes everyone else comfortable, but it's your discretion. Will we have the interpreter? Let's go ahead and swear her in just because she's here. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yo quiero decirle a ese señor que me mató mi hijo, mi primogénito, y así como lo mató a él, estoy yo también muerta.
I want to say to this gentleman that he killed my son, my firstborn, and I want to tell him that as well as he killed him, I am also dead.
No creo que es justo que él siga manejando y destruyendo familia. Mi hijo, yo lo crié sola. Mis 3 hijos, porque mi esposo murió cuando mi hijo primogénito, que él me mató, tenía 11 años.
I don't believe it's fair that he continues to drive and destroy families. Because my son, I brought him up by myself, all my 3 sons, because my husband passed away when my son, my firstborn, the one that he killed, was 11 years old.
Mi hijo, yo trabajé muy duro para educarlo. Mi hijo fue a escuela privada, se graduó con mi esfuerzo.
My son, I worked very hard to educate my son. My son went to a private school and he graduated with my effort.
Mi hijo, Wellington, trabajó y estaba trabajando para él ayudar a su madre, que decía siempre que él no tenía con qué pagar todo el sacrificio que yo hice por él. Y ese señor me lo mató, porque eso no fue un accidente, fue un asesinato.
My son, Wellington, worked hard to help his mother because he always said that he could not ever repay the sacrifice that I made for him. And that man killed him because that was not an accident, that was a homicide.
Sí, porque él estaba borracho, muy borracho.
Because he was drunk, he was very drunk.
Y aquí hay una ley en los Estados Unidos que no se puede manejar borracho.
And there's a law in the United States that you cannot drive drunk.
Y así como él me ha destruido mi vida, porque estoy como un pájaro sin alas, sin poder volar.
And like that he has destroyed my life because I am a bird. I'm like a bird without wings, without being able to fly.
Mi hijo siempre decía, mami, tú luchaste mucho por mí, yo ahora tengo que luchar por ti para que tú seas feliz y lo que tú quieras, yo te lo voy a dar porque tú hiciste mucho por mí.
My son always said, Mom, you worked very hard for me, you fought a lot for me, and from now on, I am the one who is going to fight for you. I am going to give you whatever you want because you deserve everything.
Mi hijo era muy buen amigo, muy buen hermano.
My son was a very good friend, a very good brother,
Y era muy buen esposo con su esposa que la cuidaba y la protegía siempre.
and he was a very good husband to his wife. He took care of her and protected her always.
Muy buen amigo, inclusive que el Señor con el que él andaba era para él. Mi hijo me decía, mami, es más que mi hermano, porque trabajamos juntos. Él es esposo de una amiga de nosotros de mucho tiempo.
And he was a very good friend. As a matter of fact, the man that was with him, he would say to me, Mom, he's more than a brother for me. We work together. He is the husband of a friend of ours that we have known for a very long time.
No soy jueza ni abogado, pero no creo que una persona como él, que es un asesino, vuelva a salir a la calle para seguir destruyendo familia honesta y trabajadora, porque él estaba muy borracho.
I am not a judge or an attorney, but I do not believe it's right that he can go back out on the street, destroying families like he did ours, because he is a murderer. He was very drunk.
Que se dé cuenta él, si a él le hubiese pasado, su madre, como él no sabe lo que yo sufro, nunca jamás, después que mi hijo Wellington murió, se me han secado los ojos.
If he would only know his mother, how she would feel. I feel never again after my son Wellington passed away have my eyes ever dried out.
Y yo le pido a ustedes si pueden hacer otra ley que cuando una persona más de esa condición, nunca jamás, porque cuando hagan 5 que nunca jamás vuelvan a salir a la calle, esto se va a resolver.
And I ask you if a new law can be made so that a person like that, that after 5 will not ever be able to come back out on the streets. That is the way that is going to be resolved.
Y además supe por la noticia que él tuvo licencia cancelada por otro estado. Entonces, ¿cómo fue que él pudo seguir manejando para matarme a mi hijo?
And I also found out through the news that he had a driver's license, that his license from another state had been canceled. So how could he possibly have continued to drive in order to kill my son?
Y eso es algo que nunca, jamás a una madre se le borra de su corazón ni de su mente. Cuando un criminal mata a un hijo trabajador, buen hijo, buen hermano, buen esposo y excelente amigo.
And that is something that never goes away from a mother's heart when a criminal kills a son who was a hardworking, loving, excellent son, brother, husband, and friend.
Y eso es lo que él debe de ver si él fue hijo de una madre, que como su madre, si él lo hubiera matado, se hubiera sentido, o una hermana, o si tenía esposa.
And that is something that he should see. If he had a mother, how would his mother have felt? Or his sister, or his wife, if he had a wife.
Y yo no soy jueza, ni abogado, ni nada de corte, pero 17 años no creo que es suficiente para que él esté en la cárcel. Si por lo menos le dieran 50, para que él supiera, no va a sentir mi dolor, porque no es justo, ni tuvo corazón para manejar en las condiciones que él estaba.
And I am not a judge or an attorney. I don't know anything about the courts, but I do believe that 17 years is not enough for him to know. If it had been 50 years, but he is never going to know my pain because he is never going to know the pain of a mother whose son was killed.
Y él le dan 17 y lo mismo va a hacer. Muchas gracias. Él va a volver a manejar y va a volver a matar.
And I'm sorry,
Aunque le den 17 años, él va a volver a salir de la cárcel, va a volver a manejar y va a volver a matar.
and even if he gets, even though he's getting 17 years, he is going to come out of jail, he is going to drive again, and he is going to kill again. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Judge, Ed's son, Adam.
Good afternoon.
First, make sure you speak up, okay, even though we have it. on the phone. And can you please tell the judge your name?
Madam Gonzalez, the son of Irwin Gonzalez. Ever since I found out about the accident, I've been traumatized with it. I felt bad for my dad since. I feel sorry for him. I've been really down to just see my dad in the position where he's right now, because we would talk about how he was, but he just can't because of the position. It's been a struggle for my dad, and I've been there for him since, helping him no matter what, any way I can. Oh, hardworking man. He's always been a hardworking man, family man. Just do whatever he can to keep us happy. It's part. Ever since the accident, it's just been down. It hasn't been the same thing.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good
Yeah.
afternoon. My name is Alan Gonzalez. Ed is my dad. Yeah, I'm 20 years old. This goes out to Mr. Rockwell. Okay. You have no idea how this ordeal has affected my life. Out of respect for Mr. Militants, I will have his family talk about this. But I want to tell you that I consider relief the horrific memory of the best friend that moment of his birth for wishing the circumstances of his difference. From the unfortunate moment of my life has entirely changed. I live without constant pain and a lot of depression. It never stops. The day out, I never have difficult sleep. I have difficulty sleeping at night. I constantly dream of falling and screaming, and it plays in my mind that I can't stop it. It's a never-ending trauma, and I can't control it. The fear of loss, unhappiness, and death plays over and over in my head. I do not know how to make it stop. You don't understand what has agony has done to me, and what effects it has. I survived at what cost? I've been left on this earth feeling like less of a man. And honestly, I hope one day you're robbed at that too. I worry about my future. Where I lose my leg, I have 13 surgeries, and I don't know where will be many more before I can walk again. The cutaneous infection in my leg bone makes everything so uncertain and uncertain. Coupled with all the pain makes me furious. Can you imagine the growing cost of all the medical treatment till and now in the future that you can't give me? Can you imagine what dialysis feels like? Can you imagine what not being able to breathe feels like? Can you imagine what most of your ribs damaged in your pain? Do you want to see the back of my forehead and imagine what pain I went through? I have deleted all the pictures on my phone that were taken of me when I was in the hospital because I cannot stand to see myself right now. It only makes me angry towards you worse. I have spent countless days, weeks, months in the hospital, away from my children and family, and unable to do anything about it. I have lost my hopes and dreams. I had wonderful plans for my life. I was always happy and careful because I was excited about my future with my family. I was robbed of all of those hopes and dreams by you, Mr. Rockwell. I hate how my children have suffered because of the crash. They have been traumatized, seeing me hooked up in machines that were keeping me alive in pain and unable to leave the hospital. They have suffered greatly in school. As a father, I cannot properly provide for like I always used to. I can't work. I cannot be happy. I cannot be a happy father I used to be. I feel like I failed my children and I will never attain the goals I have in life. I ask myself over and over again, why did you make that stupid choice that you made that night, which would cause you so much suffering? Why did you just stop and pull to the side of the road? Every rule of the road disagreed with you, Mr. Rockwell, has decided in trouble before your life, or is drinking and driving, but you just keep doing it. You don't even have a valid license anymore. You shouldn't have never been driving on any road in Florida. You only cared about your fun and your next feel good or next high. And now I am paying the price and will continue to pay the price for the irresponsible and selfish choices you made that night. I ask myself, why do I have to live in this hell? I was working to support my family at no fault of my own. I am stuck in this miserable reality. And while you will go to prison for 17 years, you will be eating every day, sleeping, and wasting your years. I still have to live with this health issues, the resulting financial disaster, and this hell for the rest of my life. None of this seems fair to me. Don't ever think that this is over.
That was my statement for you. Yes. I don't have that.
Thank you, Alan Gonzalez, for standing in. It took me a while to figure out that you were reading it on behalf of your father, but when he came up and he's now explained, it became evident who was speaking through your words. So thank you.
You're welcome.
My name's Yvonne Suchet. Souchet. And it said he didn't have the guts. It's not that he didn't have the guts. It's that he didn't want to berate the accused in the courtroom. Mr. Rockwell, I'm sorry. I'm here today following this awful tragedy that has left me.
She's asked me to take a seat. I don't cry. I'm here today following this awful tragedy that has left me heartbroken in more ways than one. Not only did I have the daunting task of informing the family of both Wellington and Ed after the accident, but I've had to bear witness to the turmoil it has caused each of them. For me, the loss of a childhood friend who is near and dear to my heart was tough. But I couldn't even mourn because with Ed hospitalized, I was thrust into the role of standing in for both parents of a household with 6 children, the 3 youngest whom are not present here with us today. And although I am internally grateful that Ed somehow survived that deadly crash and fall off the expressway, life as he and I had known it and planned it will never be the same. There is a whole other outlook for us now than there was. But that is also true for you, Mr. Rockwell. Your life too, and that of your family will never be the same. Knowing all of this just causes more heartache, not just for me, for everyone involved. So
Thank you. Thank you for not putting us through more heartache. For not putting us through more heartache and pleading guilty as you should. And so I just want to end my statement by saying that I hope you find solace in your life until the day you leave the place where you're headed to. And that when you get out, you have the support and love of your family that will help you through it all. That's all.
can you tell the judge your name?
My name is Arlene Gonzalez, and I'm the youngest son of my father. When I received the news that my dad was in a car crash, I had no idea how to feel. All I did was and I just wondered, is my dad dead? Is he going to be okay? When I received the news that Wellington said, that's when I was extremely worried because the doctors told us that my father might not make it. So every day I prayed and I prayed for my dad to get better. And fortunately, he did. That doesn't mean I was better. From August to December, I was constantly paranoid, worried for my own well-being. And I couldn't even be in the car without crying and thinking it was going to be my last day of life. My schoolwork was greatly affected, and only now is it starting to get better. Every day I'm so grateful that my dad is here, but I still worry for him, and I still worry for myself sometimes whenever I think about this situation. I don't know what to do. From those months in August and December, I would sometimes think about hurting myself, but I never did because I know my family didn't need any more pain. Helping me out as much as they could. I'm 15 years old.
Gonzalez.
My name is William Gonzalez. I'm the father of Irwin Gonzalez. I didn't sleep last night just to write this. Mr. Irwin Rockwell, you unfortunately crossed our life on the morning of August 27, 2021. Your careless decision that morning gave meaning to the word death, pain, tears, anger, and survival for two families. Okay? You took a good man's life. My son was a good man. You destroyed a good, hardworking man. That's a good, hardworking man. Okay? You let down your family as well, and your community, and your son. You got a son the way I do. You have no idea how many times I thought that I would have to bury that young man. You have no idea how many tears I dropped thanks to you. You have no idea how many people prayed for that young man while he was trying to struggle for his life. Yet God kept it to us. I confess that I still am very angry. And God knows and can imagine how many times I thought horrible thoughts about you and your family. But I will tell you something, Mr. Irwin. I was wrong. We're not that kind of people. We're not that kind of people. God is with us. And we're good people. I don't forgive you, but we're good people. Okay? Today, when we leave out of here, we're going to become a stronger family. We're going to work together to get everything back that we lost. I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for your family. But from today on, they're going to have to struggle and continue this horrible, horrible scenario. Okay? I pray for Mr. Wellington's family. I thank you, sir, because you're an angel. God sent you, and I have to talk to you personally. Okay? I'm going to continue to share my life with that young man and his family. All his dreams. I'm going to help him make it. Okay? I hope that you, the family, and your son can forgive you. Okay? For all the bad decisions you took that one night. I don't know what. Nobody. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
And sorry.
It's okay.
How you doing, Judge?
Good afternoon.
Rivera, his brother. The pain that you took from us is never going to be able to, we're never going to be able to replace it. And if you heard my mom today, that pain and that suffering, I've been hearing that every day. The death was the hardest thing, but seeing my mom like this every day after you took my brother, his son, great husband, and a great friend away from us is something that it's unforgivable. And I will never forgive you. The pain that my mom is suffering right now is something that we have to live with. It hurts me, and I still don't understand why you did that. You could have done a lot of things to just pulled over, you could just fix everything up just to not hurt anybody. But for that, it's just something that just, I didn't even have the words that anyone to say. I thought I had it in my mind, I had a plan to say something. And seeing you and just being in this emotional state with my mom, just you took somebody from us that was dear to her, that was dear to us and everybody here. And no one has to be like this for the rest of his life with his kids. He's not able to be known and become the mistakes that he did. I lost my brother, but I know he's in heaven with God right now. But at the end of the day, I just hope that we learn from mistakes. Like my mom said, I wish you had longer years. We're not lawyers, we're not anything here to do those things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, I think the last person that will be addressing Your Honor is Jessica Rivera, who's on Zoom. Jessica, if you can go ahead and
I have to unmute her. Hold on one second. Are you getting a little, there you go.
At 6 yes now, thank you. I appreciate
Say
it. Can
something to see
everyone
if we
hear
can hear
me?
you.
I'm speaking now. Can you hear me?
No, I hear your lips, see your lips moving, but we can't hear you. I don't know if it's the connection with the earphones. You're unmuted. Oh, you
it
put it, did you
should
do it here?
be.
Or you did it?
Yeah, did it with the speaker.
On there? Thank you. Okay, Ms. Rivera?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Jessica Rivera, and I'm honored under the circumstances to have the opportunity to fully introduce today's courtroom to my husband, Wellington Radamis Rivera. My husband has been the patriarch of his family since the age of 11, at which point he attended boarding school, where he had the unique opportunity of experiencing various activities that truly helped make my husband a well-rounded and driven student. He applied to only one college, the State University of Buffalo, and upon acceptance, he was determined to finish his dual degree program in marketing and human resources in 3 years instead of 4, and he completed that accomplishment with ease. You may wonder what my husband was rushing to and what was he chasing, and quite simply, his dream to be financially free. This dream motivated and justified all of the sacrifices he made in life to accomplish it. One way my husband was trying to achieve his dream was by venturing into commercial real estate in 2007, in which he listed and marketed and closed on portfolios worth more than $8 million in his first year at Marcus & Millichap. Additionally, he was also achieving his dream by becoming the best pharmaceutical representative in New York City. He gave 100% of himself to this career, and for that effort, he ranked top 5 highest paid sales representatives in 2008 and in 2009 at Onset Therapeutics. Then he was promoted to district sales trainer in 2010 and finished in the top 10 in 2011 at Alcon Laboratories. And most notably, he achieved his highest earning representative in 2018 at Barcelona. He also grew a startup company in 2016 because he was motivated. It was called Pink Apple Cleaners, and it started as a 2-person operation, and it actually grew to having 60 employees, increasing gross revenue from only $1,000 the first month to over $650,000 within 2 years. Unfortunately, I was forced to close this cleaning company within 2 months of my husband's passing. The truth is, he was an integral part of that company, and he was not replaceable. That's just a fact. Not only has my husband been the patriarch of our family, a successful pharmaceutical representative and an entrepreneur, but he has also been the voice of reason amongst his friends and has been the most loving life partner these past 10 years. Not only do I suffer this loss, but so do all the people who have loved him throughout the 41 years we had the honor of sharing life with him. I'm grateful that one way or another, he lived out his dream of financial freedom, and now his soul rests peacefully. My only last wish is that Mr. Rockwell spend the next 17 years planning how to become half the man my husband was in this world, so that Mr. Rockwell can find peace in his heart, trying to retrace and fill the footsteps he erased in this world. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everyone who has worked on this case, who worked day and night trying to get justice for this case. I know that you guys worked hard, and I do feel there was justice here. I think Mr. Rockwell will have 17 years of soul searching that I think will do him well. And I wish, peace to all of our families as well as his. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. Anyone else? Ms. Adams?
that concludes the state's presentation of the victim impact evidence.
So before I address and give an opportunity to the defense to make a statement if he wishes, I want to say thank you to everyone who's here in support of the many victims and people that have been touched by this case. There is nothing that I could say that is going to change anything that has happened or that is going to ease the pain that you have suffered so far. It's unimaginable. And I want you to know that I understand, but in no way am I saying that I know exactly what you've been through, because it's so horrific and so difficult that unless you have actually been part of it, you can't even start to comprehend. And I know that that's beyond where I am right now. But it's evident from the pain that I've heard that the victims, all of the victims, meaning everybody that was touched, all of you here today and those that are not able to be here today, have suffered tremendously. And this is not the end, but at least we can consider it a chapter that's been closed. So you no longer have to think of the potential trial, the depositions, sitting through it and the consequences, the uncertainty of the specific outcome. Everyone knows now what the outcome has been and can start to try to heal the best they can. I want to tell you that I appreciate Ms. Jessica Rivera seems to be in a place where she has chosen to celebrate the life of Wellington Rivera and is very proud of the person he was and the stability he brought to his family and friends. I don't know the situation of how close everyone here is, but I've known Ms. Adams as well as both defense counsels for many, many years. And I want you to know that this is one of the cases that I've seen Ms. Adams get emotional. Not that she's not attached to all of her cases, and not that she doesn't see the most horrific of cases in her daily experience as a career prosecutor, but this was obvious that she didn't even know she could get through reading something on behalf of one of the witnesses. So I know that she's had a lot of contact with all of you. And the thing that most struck me, and I hope you take it with you, specifically to Adam Gonzalez and Alan Gonzalez and Yvonne Suchet and Arlene Gonzalez and William Gonzalez and all of your family, is that Miss Adams touched upon the positive. You, Ed, are a guiding light and a miracle. She could not believe that you were here today. Your family could not believe that you were here today. And I know that I heard Arlena say that this has had a lot of consequences to her. But you are going to be their guiding light and their strength. And the fact that you're here for them now is for a reason. There's a reason that you survived against all odds. Be that light, and all of you take that as a positive. Learn from his struggles and learn from this situation. So there is nothing that I can say about Mr. Rockwell's choices other than today he has agreed to take responsibility for his actions and has taken a severe penalty. I know that there's no amount of years that would be a sufficient amount or equivalent amount for the pain and suffering and loss that he's caused. But it's an acceptance of responsibility, which I think will help everyone move on. Mr. Rogers, you're a good Samaritan that they've referred to you as. You're also a hero, just like all of the troopers who are here and do things of this nature on a daily basis. I know that Mr. Gonzalez's family, as well as the Rivera family, appreciate all the efforts and that you went out of your way, even knowing the consequences to your own safety. That says a lot about you, and we thank you. We all thank you. It's comforting to know that there are still people out there who care for others, even if they don't know who they are. So I want to thank you for that as well. Anything else, Ms. Adams, from anyone? All right. Mr. Reef and Mr. Kabilian, I don't know if you've spoken with your client before. I assume you have, but now after hearing the statements and if he wishes to make any statement.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Rockwell, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Stand here before everybody. It's cool. In the eyes of God. I know words does not. I will not surface tremendous regret and sadness I feel. Inside for the family of Mr. Rivera and Gonzalez and his family. The hard decision I have made, I think for my, out of my intentions never, or nor has ever been to put anybody's harm's way. And I wish I could turn back the hands of time, to make things right. But I know that is not possible to do. Deep down with the edge of my soul, I am truly sorry. A lot of pain, stuck in my problem. Family, everybody involved in the situation. I humbly ask for your forgiveness, not to forget, or a chance to make amends. Chance to show that it was all a tragic mistake. I never meant for anyone to lose a life, or to be severely injured. Once again, I know words or anything I do or say cannot be enough to face all the positive that we found in everybody's problem situation. The Lord has my witness. Everybody that I stand before you is for me. I humbly, sincerely apologize for my actions. Once again, I'm truly sorry. Hope one day I can ask for forgiveness.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. Did I cut you off? Okay. You may be seated. So to Mr. Rockwell's family, who's all here in support, it's a very difficult situation, but as I did hear from some of the family members on the other side, you've all suffered as well. Not the same, but you've suffered as well, and you're going to continue to have this issue in your life for many years going forward. So this is also a closing of a chapter for you all. The trial part is now closed, and you can focus on helping him and others to also become better people and take responsibility for their actions. So maybe we can turn this horrible tragedy into something more positive, and we can use this as an example for others who might be at the verge of making really bad decisions. And maybe you can stop someone from getting in a car when their faculties are impaired. Or maybe you can use this story so that people understand the severity of the consequences for something that people seem to do so carelessly. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
All right, good luck. So I'm going to log out of the Zoom for those of you that are on Zoom.
Judge, Your Honor signed the order ratifying the terms of the
I did.
agreement.
Make sure you have